If you ever want to measure the intelligence of a society, don't look at its skyscrapers, highways, or GDP numbers. Just ask one simple question. Who do people listen to, philosophers or influencers? If philosophers win, congratulations. That society is thinking. If influencers win, well, that society is scrolling. Today, I want to take you on a 15-minute journey. A journey through the history of philosophy. Not in the boring, textbook way where you are attacked by dates and names, but in a way an ordinary American sitting with a Starbucks cup can understand. Let's start with the Greeks, because philosophy, like many things, began with people who had too much free time and very good weather. Three men stand at the gate of Western thought: Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Socrates was the man who asked so many questions that the state said, "Brother, drink this poison, we've had enough." Is crime, corrupting the youth, which back then meant teaching them to think. Today, it means giving them Wi-Fi. Plato, his student, said the world we see is not real. It is just a shadow of a perfect world somewhere else. A very bold claim. And he didn't even have Netflix's special effects team. And Aristotle, well, he was the rational guy. He said, look around, observe, categorize, think logically. The father of common sense. A rare species. Even today, together, they gave the West what Americans now call foundations of thought. After the Greeks, Europe went into what polite people called the Middle Ages, and impolite people called the 1,000-year philosophical nap. The Christian theologians took over. St. Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas tried to blend Greek philosophy with Christian faith, kind of like an ancient intellectual smoothie. Their main question was simple: can faith and reason live together, or do they need separate apartments? Aquinas said they can live together. Many disagreed, and, as usual, Europe had arguments and wars about it. Then came the Renaissance, a fancy word meaning we woke up, took a shower, and remembered we had a brain. Humanism emerged. People looked at paintings, architecture, the human body, and said, wow, humans are beautiful. Maybe God doesn't have to do all the work. Thinkers like Machiavelli came along, the man who said, it's better to be feared than loved. A philosophy many politicians still follow, especially during election season. Enter the Enlightenment. The time when Europeans decided candles were not just for romance, but also for thinking. Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. A beautiful line, but not very helpful when you're standing in a long line at the DMV. Hume, the Scottish gentleman, attacked everything: logic, causality, even the idea of the self. If Hume lived today, he would question the existence of Wi-Fi even while using it. Kant, the German legend, tried to fix the mess Hume created. He basically said, yes, the world is complicated, but our minds organize experience through categories. In other words, Americans apply this principle daily when they watch the news. Half see one reality, half see another, Kant would say. Perfect example. Then came the thinkers who shaped the modern world. Hegel, the master of dialectics. Thesis meets antithesis. They fight, then synthesis happens. A philosophical WWE match. Marx. It took Hegel, removed the spiritual frosting, and baked a materialist cake. Society. Economy shapes society. Americans understand this deeply. One credit card bill can shape your entire existence. Nietzsche, the rebel who declared God dead, not because he hated God, but because he hated the people who made God small. He believed humans must create their own values, something Americans are very good at, especially when it comes to diets and political opinions. This is where philosophy becomes a psychological thriller. Freud came and said, "You have no idea why you do what you do." Half of America still pays him tribute in the form of expensive therapy sessions. Existentialists, Sartre, Camus, they said life has no meaning, so we must create meaning. Americans took this very seriously. Hence, the rise of self-help books, analytic philosophers. Bertrand Russell, Wittgenstein. These were the grammar police of philosophy. They believed many philosophical problems exist simply because we misuse language. They would have fainted if they saw Twitter. Now the question is, what does all this mean for America today? America is a land of contradictions. Freedom and surveillance, individualism and corporate power, equality and inequality, dreams and debt. A very dialectical nation. Hegel and Marx would feel at home. Philosophy here is not dead, it's just hiding in podcasts, in classrooms, in late night loneliness, in social movements, in debates about gender, race, capitalism, AI, and privacy. The real philosophical question for America is, who controls meaning in a world controlled by algorithms? The history of philosophy is not a museum. It is a mirror. Every society must look into it and ask, what do we value? Who are we becoming? And who decides our future? Humans or systems we created? Socrates began with a question. 2,000 years later, the question remains the same. Are we thinking, or are we just scrolling? And, as I always say, a society stops thinking long before it collapses. The collapse you can rebuild. But the mind, once it sleeps, is hard to wake again.